Welcome back to another episode of the Fight Sites MMA podcast. Back on video. Well, I am, Danny is not. But to replace him is someone even more pleasant, and this is a very special episode, our second video episode, and for good reason. I'm joined by Drew Dober, lightweight prospect slash contender, very exciting fighter. How are you doing, Drew?
Good, good. Excited to take a break from getting beaten up to kind of talk shop with everyone.
Um, so we've got UFC 249 coming up, and I believe your fight is on the card after that. Is that correct?
Yeah, I'm fighting on the Wednesday, May 13th.
And that's got to be weird. Wednesday.
Actually, I kind of prefer it. I get my job done on the weekday like everyone else, and so I get to enjoy the weekend like everyone else.
Yeah, that makes sense.
How's that going for you in training, Drew? Because with everything, like, there's still a lot of question marks about like whether this stuff is going to happen. We've talked to a couple sources that we trust who feel like 249 it really is. They're going to make it happen this weekend, but I mean, there always is kind of an air of uncertainty with where we are. So how are you going about that?
I mean, I think at this point, like, it's finally on. I can't say the same thing about my training camp. My training camp was all over the place. I told my girlfriend that I was like, I feel like I'm running a triathlon that they keep moving the finish line. I don't know when to coast. I don't know. And plus making 55, it's not sustainable. Like, I can't keep my weight that low for indefinite period of time. So I was like, oh, thank God, we finally have a date, an opponent, and a place, so I can start enjoying this now.
Yeah, that's a problem because guys like Cowboy have mentioned fighting like 3 times in that week, and you can't imagine that happens, right?
Yeah, it'd be crazy. And the unfortunate thing is, like, now I'm flying on the 9th, so now, like, I have to hurry up and land so I can, like, watch the May 9th card like everyone else.
I didn't say that to like kind of stress you out or anything. It was more just like our position is a strange one too, because all we can do is cover what we know. All we can do is cover sort of what is supposed to be coming at us, and then apart from that, like, there's no reason to. If something gets canceled, then that can be a lot of work that we've put in that's just kind of goes out the window. And I know it's even more so for you who's actually fighting and trying to compete. I didn't even think about the weight cutting element. That's got to be a nightmare.
I mean, at least you guys can slightly understand, we use that term where, like, the hay's in the barn, like, the work is in, and, like, it's just going to come out the way it's supposed to. And so then people are like, when you fight? I'm like, I don't know, but I've already put in so much work that I'm not letting it go to waste. So whether it's the 9th, the 16th, the 23rd, like, just get me in the cage. So that way, like, I can actually use what I put in, and I earn my ability to, like, relax.
Yeah, I mean the whole thing it seems new for everyone, and I mean it's kind of just a bizarre situation where no one knows what's going on. But the good thing is, you've got a ranked opponent in front of you this time. I believe Hernandez is ranked 15th, right? So
I think so.
That's got to be a pretty fun one, especially after your last win, which was, I would argue, arguably even more significant. I mean, considering the odds going in, and I'd expect them to be a little bit closer now after that last one. But how do you feel about Hernandez as an opponent?
I've always had my eyes on him. As soon as he, like, entered the UFC, I kind of was just like, I'm gonna eventually fight this guy. So it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. So, like, I've watched all his fights leading up to this point, and I already have a solid idea of, like, what kind of a fighter he is and all that stuff. But so when they asked me, like, can you fight Alex, May 13th, I was like, yeah, absolutely. Like, I know exactly what that is. And to be honest, I was originally scheduled to fight Diego, May 2nd. But I think this one, for some reason, it's creating more buzz. So, like, Diego is ranked higher, but, like, this fight, like, people seem to be very interested in, which excites me because it's gonna be fireworks.
It's kind of an interesting one to think about, because when Hernandez and Hackbrass both sort of came into the UFC around the same time, like, it was about 2 years ago. I guess it was about 2 years ago over the summer. And around that time that, Hernandez got the win over Dariush, and then Hackbrass had his kind of breakout performance against Mark Chikadze. And people were kind of looking at it as like, these are, two really young guys who might have high ceilings in this division, but they're kind of coming into the UFC just in their early to mid 20s. And
Yeah.
now you are going to be fighting both of them back to back. Like that would be, I know that the rankings can be skewed for a myriad of reasons, but that's got to do a lot for your reputation to break into the top 10 and keep going. If you could net victories, off both of these kind of young upstarts who everybody had their eyes on, like to net wins over them, at the same time.
Right. No, I agree. I think, I believe that rankings and all stuff it's a popularity contest, and it's not a matter of who you fight, it's how you fight. And I think I was talking about it. I think Alex and Nazareth are kind of like the same, very enthusiastic, youthful, and talented fighter, but kind of just not as experienced. So it's fun for me, being 31 years of age, to like showcase my abilities. Like I feel 26 right now, so like I feel just as young and enthusiastic with experience. And so like I think it's this matchup coming right off of the Nasrat fight is a simple one.
Have you felt that before? Like, have you kind of look at these younger fighters? Do you see them and you maybe see a little bit of yourself in them? You kind of think I've been in their shoes. I know what it's like to have that kind of enthusiasm and excitement. You're in the UFC, you're fighting ranked guys, but you maybe just don't have the shading in your game. You don't really have the
no, the way I see it is, I did a lot of growing, in my 20s. Like I told my teammates, like I was 20 years old once. I had piss and vinegar and ignorance at one time, and I mean it worked out well, then. But I hit a hiccup and I had to learn from it. So like I'm the mature fighter, and these guys I kind of see the not so much the immaturity, but the lack of experience, the control of emotion, and then the zone.
I think because you mentioned growth, and I think one interesting thing about your career specifically is that earlier in your career, like you weren't as much of a because I mean the power was always there, I think, and you were always a terrific athlete, but you weren't able to parlay that into finishes as much as you have recently, and I would argue your level of competition has only grown. So I mean, from like I would argue from like Dariush forward, you've kind of wrought havoc upon the three guys since. And
Yeah.
I'm wondering whether that was something specific you looked at in camp, or whether it's like just a function of growing naturally.
Um, it's a function of growing naturally, but it does touch on the youthful versus the experience side of things. I always felt like I hit hard. Like in my amateur days, the local, coming up in professional, like I mean, I was hitting people hard, but I wasn't really finding the finishes. And I think that was because when MMA started feeling like a career, like a job, it became very restrictive mentally. Like I wasn't able to really pull the trigger because I was so worried about losing or this and that and this and that. So then, as of recently, before my fight with Josh Berkman, I really just worked on just being calm up here, calm in my mind, and like from what I heard, it was a calm mind is a creative mind. So I'm really able to pull the trigger and let go because I'm not like so uptight up here. So I think that's where this power, like I always had that capability, but my mind was holding myself back. And now I'm able to like live freely and flow freely. Like my knockouts are happening.
I got to ask you something on kind of the technical side of things, because I mean, from the outside, what it's looked to me a little bit is that you've, like you said, you sort of calmed down a bit, and like you said, you sort of let yourself find the openings, let them come. It also looks like you're just able to sit down on your punches a little bit more. It seems like your combinations are a little more like you stay in stance when you're throwing combinations. You know how to like put weight behind your rear hand. And that was, I think, one of the things that shocked me about the Hack Barras fight was that it was just so quick. Like it was like you came in and you knew exactly the sort of slice of distance where you had to push because Hack Barras is like it has long arms. Like he's a surprisingly like rangy kind of lightweight, and you
Right.
knew exactly like what distance to pressure past, and then sat down immediately, and that was basically all it took. So I was wondering, from like a coaching side, what have your coaches been telling you in these types of situations too?
It was actually what I found out that I lacked, which is I came from a Muay Thai background, and Muay Thai is like human cockfighting. Like we just stand and trade. It's like I'll take more than he can take. But when you get in MMA, I fought Nick Hyman in Germany and I lost by decision. And it was because he was moving around so much and I just didn't know technically how to get close to him. And so then after that, I talked to this specific Muay Thai coach that I knew, who is currently now my striking coach, because he was able to translate Muay Thai offense with footwork. And I was like, teach me how to do that. Teach me how to do that. So since hiring him on, him and I have been pretty much working on movement, closing distance, and being able to like see with my eyes like where the openings are versus just going out with a whole lot of energy, hoping one thing's gonna land. And so we've been constantly trying to build on it.
Yeah, I think that's one interesting thing I noticed about the Polo Reyes fight, because I think my favorite moment I've seen from you, just like really, really specifically, was in the Reyes fight where Reyes like kind of did like a little frame and you like doubled up on a right hook over top of it for like dipping under the return. It was really slick, and I showed it before the Nasrat fight. It's like, hey, this guy might give him a little bit of trouble, and as you know, that's how it panned out. But yeah, I mean, it's actually been really great to watch your growth. Now, one cool thing is that both you and Dariush have been on like a cool trajectory since that fight, and everyone who knows the fight site knows that I'm pretty much a massive Dariush stan. So yeah, that was cool.
I'm a huge Darush fan. I mean, even before we fought, like I was a huge fan of his. And so when I was offered that fight, I was like, oh, absolutely. Like to test myself against a guy that like I've admired for so long was great. And we became friends before that fight. We talked after the fight, and he just came out to Denver to help Gaethje train. So him and I were like sparring around and moving around. So like, yeah, Neil and I are cool guys.
Yeah.
So I have a question for you, Drew. And after this, I think the three of us should probably move on to the main card. But I do want to touch on this a little bit because it shouldn't be lost.
Mm-hmm.
Something that has been kind of discussed a bit about Alex Hernandez is that, beyond his kind of, where he's at mentally, is that he seems like a bit of he's an enthusiastic fighter, but it's sort of coming to question like how deep his game is.
Yeah.
And he does seem to be someone who tends to run out of ideas when he can't kind of control the initiative from the jump. And then he also, I think the question mark is how well can he adjust, because both in the Trinaldo fight and the Cerrone fight, it seemed like he had a decent idea of how to approach the opponent going in, and then when things kind of stopped going his way, he just had a habit of sort of running into the same thing again and again. And I sort of wonder, obviously I don't want to make you reveal too much if it's a coaching or game plan thing, but I do sort of wonder what you and your coaches have scouted in Hernandez. What have you keyed in on, if you're allowed to say?
Yeah, no, I think I'm allowed to say it because I don't think much is going to change in the next week or so.
Yeah.
But I think some fighters, I'm going to exclude Alex's name because I don't know what he's going to come in with, in the cage. It's my job to kind of adapt and overcome. But from what I've seen with fighters that are egotistical, is when things go their way, it goes fantastically. But as soon as things like stop going their way and things start getting bad, it goes really bad because they don't have the ability to get through the fight. Like to remind themselves, it's like, hey, we dropped that first round, but we're still looking forward to the second one. I've ran into my fair share of like egotistical fighters. My fight before getting into the UFC, the guy was undefeated, 7 and I was like, all right, he's never been out of the first round. So he gave me hell for 5 minutes. But as soon as we entered that second round, I was like, oh, these are unknown territory for you. And I just see it, in his eyes that like he's uncomfortable. And that's my job as an opponent, is I'm gonna make you feel uncomfortable. And all the stuff that you want to work, it's not gonna work. And I want to see how you can feel yourself after.
That's something specific that Hernandez mentioned right after the Cerrone fight, is that like, the post-fight little statement thing he did on Instagram was like, oh, I expect all my fights to be, I think he quoted was like an execution. Like he went out and like he took Dariush out in like a minute, and then he had the big fight with OAM, but then with Cerrone, it's like when he hit adversity, it was kind of difficult, and you kind of have to expect that for an experienced fighter, it's a bit of an advantage.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had my fair share of losses. I don't like this number, but it says that I have 9 professional losses. I don't like it, but that just shows that like I've been in firefights. I've been on the losing side. I've had to like pick up the pieces and really like overcome adversity. And so now my job is I'm going to give some Galax some adversity and see if he can overcome it.
And that's a cool thing to me because as we've talked about at the fight site and elsewhere, the competitive structure of the UFC is a pretty rigid one. It can be a hard place if you know pick up losses early in your career. It can sometimes be hard to kind of rebuild yourself and make a run late. And that's exactly what you're doing right now. And that's why I think that it's so cool and so inspiring is the fact that you've been there, you've had some losses, you've had some fights slip out of your fingers, and it hasn't deterred your growth. And I think it was the I think it was the fight with Camacho that I saw of yours, and it opened my eyes a bit to like just how you'd been, you know, maturing and growing, and you could see that kind of that depth of skill continue to come to rise to the surface against someone who is ready to meet you at every turn. And so the fact that you've continued to develop since then, I think is just awesome. And I want to underscore that it's not likely. It's a hard thing to do in the UFC. If you fall a couple steps, you may fall a couple more. Even you may not even realize how.
And that's I feel bad for those fighters that suffered their first loss in the UFC or suffered their first loss, in the top 10 of the UFC, because now they have to pick up the pieces, and there's no easy fights. There's no easy fights in the UFC, and it's what got you there. You just think to yourself, "Oh, I just messed up this one time. I can just keep doing what I've been doing." And when it comes to fighting, like you got to keep on growing, and so that's what I've been since my last since my loss with Oliver Mercier, I had to check in with myself and go, what am I doing wrong? And what is stopping me from achieving these goals? And like you just have to reevaluate after every single fight. And yeah, I won the Frank Camacho fight, but like I got tunnel vision. And so like how do we get rid of that tunnel vision? What do I need to do? My last fight with like Nazarat, like there's always these little things in my head where it's like, okay, I have 60 seconds or 60 plus seconds of time where you're like, what did I do wrong and what can I do better? And even now I'm thinking about like if I was Alex Hernandez, how would I beat Drew Dober? And that's the things I need to start working on. So it's just that constant checking in with yourself and reevaluating and always just telling yourself like you don't know. You don't know what you're doing right now, but you will learn.
Yeah, I think that's great insight. Sriram, do we want to move on to the picks portion of this?
Oh man, this is the worst. I'm so bad at picking fights, but go on.
I mean, same. The results are rough.
I think we have like 3 or maybe 4 on hand that we want to cover. We're not going to do the full card, but we want to touch on a few, and some of them our thoughts have been pretty well documented already. But let's start at the top. Tony Ferguson versus Justin Gaethje. Is it for the interim title?
Yeah.
Whatever that means. I don't know.
Yeah. For that random title they're gonna put on somebody and then forget about. Right?
Exactly. Yeah. It's 5 rounds is the important thing.
Yeah, I know. Which
25 minutes.
I have my I put my money on Gaethje.
Okay.
Same. Because I trained with him, so it'd be so hard for me not to bet on him. But man, he hits hard. I don't think people really know how hard he hits. Like, oh, good God. And like he's technical too. Like it may look like chaos when he's in there, but like he knows where his feet are. He knows what range he's in. I mean, that's how he hit Barboza. Like he knew exactly where Barboza was going, and he switched stepped and hit him with that hook. So like he hits hard, he hits technical, and then yeah.
I'm not going to bury the lead. I think Sriram and I are both picking Gaethje as well.
Yeah.
And I think that it's one of the reasons that I want to say it is what you said, Drew, and also the fact that, and this is a tough one to speculate on, but I think it needs to be said, is that I kind of think that this would be, I sort of think Gaethje would be a tough fight for Tony at a lot of points in Tony's career.
Yeah.
But especially right now.
Right. Yeah. I mean, he did almost a full camp against a wrestler like Khabib, and now switches over to like a guy that just swings heavy. So it's like it's a huge change, and so
The massive
he's gonna make
change.
that. Yeah, he's gonna adapt to that. I think it being a 5-round fight benefits Tony Ferguson. But God, man, I'm so excited about that. So excited.
Yeah, I think in a broader sense, it might be tough in this stage of Tony's career because, and this is something that I think a lot of people have kind of forgotten in Tony's win streak. It's not like, in terms of stylistically challenging matchups, I would argue the last one he faced was Dos Anjos on paper, maybe. And even that isn't super indicative in terms of like challenge. Because if you look at someone who like gets dropped a bunch, like Tony Ferguson, he hasn't faced a really, really great counterpuncher in a long time during the streak at any point. So I think Gaethje is going to be rough for someone who can have moments of defensive lapses, irresponsibility, stuff like that.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is, like, he lulls you to sleep with his, like, he covers up and just hangs out, but, like, he gets you comfortable with hitting him. So now your hands are no longer by your face, and now he's going to find your chin.
That's actually a really good way to put it. I think the kind of similar to what Sturm said. I don't know how many. I don't really know how many analogous matchups to Justin Gaethje Tony Ferguson has, and that's a bit of a worrying thing for me because Tony's stance leaves him exposed a lot. He will constantly come in flat, he'll come in too wide, he'll come in too narrow, and then he'll sort of get his feet sort of jumbled beneath him as he's, trying to look for like a switch kick. And that means that he's probably not going to be in a particularly good position to check kicks. I feel like, Gaethje knows what's good for him. He's going to be going low a lot in this fight.
Yeah.
I think Tony's command of distance is an interesting one because he's not really a consistent counter threat.
Right. Right.
He's hard to get a rhythm on because he fights just so you really don't. He's such an indecipherable opponent. Like you never really know what's coming at you, and I'm not sure. I don't know if he knows. Oftentimes he's able to find openings on the fly.
Right.
But that's a worrying thing for me because if he can't just strand Gaethje with jabs or with long kicks, then I feel like at a certain point Gaethje's going to be able to work his way inside. He's going to be kicking low, and then the body's going to be open all day. And I don't know. I just have had this feeling for a long time that I feel like Justin Gaethje would probably be a difficult one for Tony because Tony has no way to fight Justin than to just kind of go through him.
Right. Right. No, I agree. That's why it's gonna be a fun one to watch. I'm super stoked.
Yeah, I mean, we talked about this because we had an earlier episode, like pretty much fully on Tony. It was like one of those fighter interest ones, and anyone watching, you should check that out because it's super cool. But one thing that we kind of landed on was that a lot of Tony's career has been going through matchups that he probably shouldn't have taken, and this is definitely another one. Like all respect to Gaethje, but this is not a fight that Tony should be taking from a career management standpoint, even in the situation that he's in right now. I mean, anyone sensible would wait for Khabib, and we don't know the behind the scenes, machinations going on, but it's probably unfair to him for taking this fight. And a lot of his career has been kind of on the edge of winning and losing. And that's kind of concerning looking at, as I mentioned before, like if you look at Gaethje, for example, his first 3 fights in the UFC were against guys I'd consider pretty defined, awful matchups for someone who's a pocket boxer, because you have Michael Johnson, who's super, quick. He's great at working around a guard. He hits the body. And Gaethje got through that. And then you have Alvarez and Poirier, who are among the best boxers, at least at the time, in MMA, including in the pocket. And then every time Gaethje's faced an opponent who you could be like, okay, this is a great matchup for Gaethje, Gaethje's just walked right through them. And it's been awful for the other guy. Where with Tony, it's like, if you can look at a good matchup for him on paper and be like, that guy might, meme him, you can't really look at a hard matchup for him in Gaethje and be like, yeah, Tony's definitely going to win. It's rough.
Yeah, no, it's definitely an interesting one. And being part of Team Elevation and Justin Gaethje's camp, I'm really excited for him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, all of us we're all psyched to see it. It's just that we can express some of the circumstances surrounding it are always a little less than ideal. But I think we're good on that one. So that's the second one, which is not an interim title, but is sometimes feels like it has the competitive implications of an interim title. Henry Cejudo versus Dominic Cruz. Drew, what are you thinking?
I'd put my money on Cejudo.
Yep.
Yeah, I was watching, rewatching a couple of his last fights, and he's the complete package. He puts things together, and I think Cruz. No offense to Cruz, he's been out for a while, and I think Cejudo's on it. He's on it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the lay of the land here. I think Cruz would be an interesting one for Cejudo. Again, similar to the main event, and probably even more so. I think Cruz would be an interesting fight for Cejudo at a different point in his career.
Yeah.
But it's because he is, for all of Cruz's tools, which are janky and strange, he is an incredibly smart fighter, and a fighter who understands specifics of fighting that a lot of people didn't at the time. Like, this is a guy who understood what it meant to keep his head offline, pretty much at all times. He understood the basics of cagecraft. Like, he understood pivots, and he understood, taking angles on the way in. Like, he understood a lot of important components of fighting. He just kind of put them together in a way that was a little less than technically standard.
Right.
And I mean, like, he's a brilliant wrestler. Like, it must be said that I'd probably say the best part of his game is his ability to shoot reactive shots, even out of kind of a strange stance some of the time. But the takedown's not going to be there. I have no idea where Cruz is at physically, but I'm probably going to guess not great, given that his last performance, he was already kind of looking a little bit slower against Garbrandt, who is, admittedly ridiculously fast, but it did look like Cruz was slowing down a bit, and then after a ton more injuries, this one just kind of seems like it's hard to have any real faith in him, right?
Yeah, I think Cruz needs to come into this fight as like a different, more and improved. He needs to show something different than his last couple. Definitely.
I guess it kind of relates back to the interview part of this one, but given how, like, because Cruz Cejudo represents something that I think a lot of us in the analyst community, quote unquote, don't really like, and it's kind of because bantamweight's a terrific division, right? You have guys like Corey Sandhagen and Peter Yan and Aljamain Sterling, and they're all kind of stuck in a holding pattern. Now, lightweight's not really that bad, but it has been in the past with like Conor McGregor. So how difficult is it to kind of get motivated in that kind of situation where you might do your best and be better than everyone else, but still might not get the shot?
Mm-hmm. No, it's very difficult. I mean, I can't imagine what Corey Sandhagen's going through. I'm at a point where now I'm just trying to hit that top 10, and so like my options are limitless. But once you get in that top 5, and like there's like a bottleneck, and I think Curtis Blades in the same point where it's like, man, like we need to get things moving. But at the end of the day, like that title looks nice, but we're also all fighting for paychecks, and it doesn't matter who you fight, it's how you fight. So I think people should just develop that mentality of just put anyone in front of me and I'm going to make it entertaining.
Yeah, I mean,
I think that's the best attitude to have. But
things don't always happen the way you like. I would love to have a camp with like my full team and not being quarantined, but this is beyond my control, and that's kind of how life works. And I think with the bottlenecked top 5 in a weight class, that's just kind of a symbolized like a version of like life, right? Things there's no easy way to get to the things you want. You just gotta find your way around it.
Yeah, I mean,
that is admirable in the midst of where we are, because it's a lot easier to do what we do, and where we can point out what we dislike, but we are still kind of don't really have any sort of say in, what goes on. Like you
Right.
said, you're the one fighting for the paycheck. Like it's you kind of just have to take it on the chin, and it's in your own hands, as
Mhm.
unfair as that might be. So I applaud you for that line of thinking.
Oh, thanks, man.
But yeah, I think this is again, Cejudo Cruz feels a little bit open and shut. It does. I sort of wonder where we'd be at if the quarantine didn't happen and the UFC wasn't forced to just kind of make whatever fight they could at the time. Regardless,
Cejudo Aldo. That's not much better, is it?
that's true. I really shouldn't say that. What's the next one? Ngannou Rozenstruik. Here we go.
I don't have.
I think isn't Rozenstruik the guy that just beat Alistair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think at a technical standpoint, they both may hit hard, but Ngannou's going to land first.
Okay. It's heavyweight. That's all.
I don't really have a great read on this. Yeah, I don't have a great, because I think there are versions of Ngannou that might because I remember in the beginning of the Stipe fight where he kind of just came out like a house on fire, and it wasn't particularly similar to what we expect from him before that, because he's usually just like a big counterpuncher type guy, and even his counterpunches aren't like hair trigger type, immediately just as soon as he moves. They've been in like weird long combinations where he lands like the weird crossing stuff or like the shovel hooking. So like him just walking out and like swinging at Stipe's head, I think that's the route here, and I think that will be the route in a Stipe rematch, because what Rozenstruik does is not the kind of throw big wide overhand and like turn your back that Junior Dos Santos did, and I think Ngannou's going to have trouble finding counter opportunities there. So I think it's kind of a tell of two fights, right? Because if Ngannou comes out hot, I think Rozenstruik's look durable, but you can't really trust that with Ngannou. So if Ngannou does that, I think it works, but I have a feeling he doesn't, and it's kind of slow and Lewis-like.
Mm-hmm.
I am gonna pick Rozenstruik. And it's kind of for the reasons that Sriram laid out. I said this on Twitter, and it was a bit of a joke, but it's actually I do mean it. Rozenstruik showed three things against Overeem. He showed that he could jab. He showed a functional leg kick. And he showed an ability to fight at an agonizingly slow pace without ever losing composure, even if he dropped around, never losing focus. And I think that's kind of what I'm picking, Sriram. I think it's going to be like if Rozenstruik just sort of goes after Ngannou, he'll probably get knocked out.
Mm-hmm.
If he just does what Derek Lewis did, like if he can just kind of throw non-committal strikes, tap Ngannou's legs, and just slowly peck away at him for 15 minutes, I gotta kind of think that he'll probably. I don't know if Ngannou still knows what to do about that. Like, I don't really know what Ngannou does when an opponent just doesn't really commit to any sort of lead.
Right.
So there's no science here. This is not any.
It's heavy.
Whoever's going to land first, honestly.
Yeah. Like I said, they're heavyweights. Who cares? But it's just, I just have this feeling that I'm like, if Rozenstruik can just approach it with a little bit of tact, if he can just be the tiniest bit patient and just not give, he can just show a lot without giving anything. I think he can win it. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna pick him to do it. I don't know if that's a smart pick, but I'm gonna do it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a weird fight. I don't have any kind of strong read on it. The next one I do though, Jeremy Stephens and Calvin Kattar, because like the Ferguson thing, we did a long thing on Calvin Kattar, so I'm not gonna kind of retrace that, I guess. Drew, what are your thoughts on this?
Honestly, I don't have any strong opinion. I'm a huge fan of Jeremy Stephens, and so generally at all, I'd put my money where my heart is, which is like I like seeing Jeremy fight. So
Fair enough.
I mean, Jeremy's fun.
So what do you?
The Yair fight was pretty worrying to me for Jeremy because like he's kind of getting up there in terms of like how deep he is into his career, where he's I mean Ian the Zabit showing wasn't awful, the Aldo showing wasn't awful, but the Yair fight it was kind of like he landed on the smart fight in round 3, and yeah, he should have 5 rounds for it, and it was kind of poetically ironic that he got eye poked out of that in the first time, and then the second time he lost a 3-rounder where he would have won in 5. So that was like the saddest thing I've ever seen. But I think Kattar's one where he kind of needs to game plan because a lot of what Kattar does, it fits very, very neatly into what has troubled Stevens a lot, which is, the kind of back foot mastery, the jab that can intercept him moving in, a really strong counter punching. It's just not a favorable matchup with the exception of the kicking game. And I think Stevens would kind of need to systematize that a little bit more than he has in the past. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Kattar. Kattar's cool.
Yeah, I think I mostly agree. This does sort of feel. I mean, I don't really know if I'd like Kattar for Stevens at the best of times. Like Kattar, who is a very good lateral mover. He's someone who he has great cage craft on the outside. He knows when to break his stance along the fence to keep his exits open. He L-steps well. He pivots well. He's at his best when he can draw guys onto him. So if he's drawing them onto jabs or, straight shots or sort of tight left hooks to the body and so forth, like that's pretty much his bag. Stevens is, God love him. He's still not much of a cage cutter. He's always struggled with guys who can move around on the outside, and that has troubled him from Moicano to Zabit to Aldo in his most recent run, troubled him against Yair. Going back even further, I mean, he struggled with it against like Charles Oliveira. I feel like Stevens is just going to give Kattar too much of his own fight. And honestly, given how he looked in the Yair fight, I honestly think that he might get knocked out. This might be the first time we see Stevens finished since what was it?
Aldo.
Was it
I guess yeah. I guess Aldo finished him. That's true. I guess I was thinking all the way back to the Eve Levine fight.
Oh yeah, actually I saw a clip of that.
Eve Edwards fight. Yeah,
Yeah,
all
I
those years ago.
But,
So that one seems pretty open and shut. What else is there, Sriram? Is there anything like? Because I know some of the fights are kind of weird. We're not going to waste your time with Sam Alvey, Drew.
I know, right? But
There's
no,
Cerrone Pettis.
out here, but I gotta get myself ready for my second training session for today.
Oh, no problem, dude.
Oh, great.
No worries, but I'm so thankful that you guys had the time to interview me and check in with me, and I had a lot of fun.
The pleasure was ours, man. Thank you so much for stopping by. We're in your corner this time. I'm dead.
Thank you so much. This time, I'm glad I won you guys.
Had us for Nasrat. Or had me for Nasrat.
You know what I mean. Come on. That's just
You
making us
guys
look
are
bad,
awesome,
sir.
man. Thank you so much.
Absolutely.
Thank
buddy.
you.
Take it easy.
All right. So, I mean, is there anything else? I don't see anything else.
We got one more, Ciro.
Yeah, we got Cerrone Pettis, maybe.
No. That's not the one.
Is it Carlos Barza versus Michelle Watterson?
It's Verdum Oleinik.
That's the one. That's definitely the one.
Give me your read, buddy.
Verdum knocks him out with a spinning heel kick, and Oleinik Ezekiel chokes him on the way down, double TKO.
Wow.
Bold, I know.
Good. That's good. I am going to pick Oleinik, I think. I don't fucking know. All I know is that Verdum looked pretty shot when he fought Volkov, and that was 2 years ago.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of that on this. It actually sucks with Cruz and Verdum. It's kind of like a similar. I mean, it's not as like clear cut with Cruz Cejudo, but with this one, it's like I feel like I'd favor Verdum really super heavily if this was prime Verdum because
He's not prime.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, holy shit! I didn't even think about that. Verdum has won before Cruz has won. Like he has won a fight since before Cruz has won a fight. Like,
oh yeah, Marcin Tybura was in 2017. Oh
that's
dear.
crazy.
Oh dear.
Oh, that's insane. That's so gross to think about.
That's just man.
So Cruz's last win was 199. He's 50 UFC events later, or 50 pay-per-views later.
Yeah. I mean, what? That's straight up 4 years. Jesus.
That is.
We're a month short of 4 years later.
If Cruz wins.
Yeah, I mean, if Cruz.
Incredible.
Yeah, I mean, right now I have TJ as the bantamweight GOAT because I scored the Cruz fight for him, so I think that was it. But yeah, if Cruz wins this, I think that'd get him the spot back.
Yeah, I think probably too. I mean, love him or hate him, Cejudo is a tremendous win right now. Whoever beats Cejudo next, whether it's Peter Yan or whoever, like that is a great win, and it shouldn't be. We shouldn't slide on that. Don't think it's going to be Cruz though. So
that sucks.
Sorry to say.
If I had an excuse to pick Cruz, I would, but unfortunately, I kind of don't.
Can't. Yeah. Well, anyway, I think I'm good from my end. That was tons of fun.
Yeah, that was great.
I hope Drew Dober didn't get upset when I said we're in his corner this time. I hope he meant that I was. I wasn't trying to be disrespectful. I was just trying to. I knew he needed to get off the phone, so I'm giving us a bad name, and I'm like not even trying, sir. It's great.
Yeah, that's usually my job. Oh God.
Yeah, exactly. You're the one who's supposed to piss off the fighters, not me.
Oh. I mean, but yeah, Drew, if you're listening back to this, thanks for joining us. We're in your corner always. Absolutely. How about that?
Yes, truly. The Fight Site is a big fan of Drew Dober. I think we're good on this one. So next week, I mean, like I said, it seems like it's going to happen. It seems like the fights are actually going to go down this weekend. So maybe a week from today, we'll podcast again, and we'll have a chance to talk about how brutally Justin Gaethje was finished by a hook jab against Tony Ferguson. But until then, you can see the rest of our work at the Fight Site. Sriram, do you have anything coming out this week?
I don't think so. I think I have something for the for one of the cards next week, but it might not be done.
All right.
Yeah, I mean, we'll have some 249 coverage out with the staff picks and such. Yeah. But nothing specific so far. Read the Assault South stuff. Yeah, that's it.
You can find the saga of Marat Grigorian and Sitthichai Sitsongpinong on the Fight Site, which is the article that I just wrote about Grigorian and Sitthichai's 5-fight series in Glory. And other than that, I think we have some other kickboxing stuff coming out. Ryan's writing a piece on Agawa. I think Tommy just ran a Muay Thai piece today. I haven't read it yet. But yeah, for everything else, all of your combat sports needs, we need to come up with like a slogan, Sriram.
Yeah, I mean, if anyone knows Nick Lentz, someone send the Gregorian piece to him so he can campaign for another Oliveira fight.
Oh God, that's such a good idea. Oh, I'm totally gonna do that. Oh, I'm definitely doing that. That's
which one did this be? This will be number 4, right? For him. So he's gonna lose this one.
I think they have fought 4 times. So
it's coming.
So this might be it.
It's coming. It's definitely coming.
Yeah. That Nick Lentz win is on its way.
No one beats Nick Lentz 5 times.
That's true. Take inspiration from Marat Grigorian, because Nick Lentz and Marat Grigorian are definitely comparable as fighters.
Certainly.
In terms of skill and temper. That's it for this week's episode. Thank you guys for joining us. Drew Dober, thank you for joining us as well. We will be back next week, and let's pray to the heavens that Justin Gaethje wins this fight so we can knock out Khabib.
Let's go. See y'all later.